Good morning, everybody in committee. This is a committee meeting of the Senate Agricultural meeting, and it's March 19th. And we our schedule today is we don't have any scheduled witnesses. Basically, I thought that we would review how our bills are doing, and then there's an amendment. I think that that Natural Resources is offering to our food waste bill that's down, I believe, and I don't know if it's still in finance or if it got shipped off to approach maybe yesterday or something. We would talk about that, review the hearing that we had yesterday in regards to the property in Norwich. We need to schedule that. Kevin, you remember Kevin Ellis came in earlier in the week with that guy. We need to deal with that. Maybe this coming week, and put the House bills that we talked about and heard the presenters yesterday or the day before, put those in some kind of an order that you folks, the committee feels, which ones you want to work on first, and the only thing I'd say in regards to those is that we might want to keep that miscellaneous ag bill sort of toward the end in case we need to add or delete something from it. So that's basically what I thought we would work on this morning. Linda, what time, or you guys, one of you may know what time we go on the floor? Is it 11?
11 o'clock, yes.
Yeah. So we've got a couple of hours, and I didn't know if there was anything else that any of you may have that you wanted to chat about this morning. So we'll get started. There's no particular issue in front of the other as far as I'm concerned. Chris?
Just to point out, Linda just sent us the Natural Resources Amendment on chickens. So maybe we don't need to deal with that till next week, but we do have that if we're looking for something to do.
But it's on the calendar for today, so we have to decide if we're going to pass over it or not then.
It didn't get shipped to approach, Anthony?
Well, it's on the calendar for today. So I don't know if it got shipped or not.
Action or notice?
Action. New business, third reading. Committee bills for second reading.
Well, we should get, do you need Michael in to explain that, or Chris? Have you been chasing that, Anthony? And
No, I just seen it now for the first time.
yeah.
And it's got a couple of changes.
It also has you as the reporter, Mr. Chair.
Me?
Yeah.
Maybe, was that a committee bill? That's why they
Yeah, probably.
did that, probably.
Yeah.
But what the hell, they do a strikeout?
No.
No. No.
It says one of 50 pages though.
No, that's the first email that Linda sent. That's the bill. There's a follow-up email. It's a 3-page amendment. And Anthony, I think we could always ask to pass over it if we needed more time to take a look at the amendment.
I mean, I think we need to take a look at it. Yes. Probably
So-
with Michael.
So we'll move to pass over that then?
Until we have a time, until we have time to review the amendment, yes.
Yeah. I don't know if Michael's busy this morning or not. Do you know, Linda, what Michael's schedule is?
He's booked until 10:30.
15 minutes. It isn't going to give us much time to,
I could
Review-
email him. I could email him and see if he can sneak away from other obligations.
well, that might be good. If he could, I mean, I would think we might need a half hour, I would think, if that's possible.
I'll check. If he can't come for a half hour, I'll tell him to come next week, right?
Yeah,
Although Tuesday, we'd have to pass over at 2 because we won't meet till after 4.
yeah, I guess today we'd move to postpone action until, the 24th or something like that.
Why couldn't we do
Let's-
this, Chris, tomorrow on Tuesday?
Because the floor is before our committee meeting.
Oh, right.
What if we ask Bray to do his amendment on third reading? The reason I ask is, this has a whiff of controversy about it because people know we've talked about it over the past. So if we let it hang out there, it just sort of builds this mystique. But I mean, I don't care. that
Well,
much.
if he would do his thing until, before third reading, instead of on second reading, we could at least get through second reading.
Maybe it's not important enough. I don't know what people think.
Well, what are they trying to do? I mean, once we got through it, we would know whether or not, if it's something we could agree to or not agree to. I don't know. I don't think I got that amendment. Well, I've got it here.
Linda sent a quick second email. That's where it is.
Yeah. Yeah, it's only the rules shall prohibit from being put in a village center. Well, you've got to have 4 acres, and I mean, that's that isn't an issue really that I'm concerned about. Who would want to put a composting facility in a village center? And then report on importation wants to get a report back.
They want it to be more detailed.
Pardon?
Looks like they want the report to be more detailed, but I think those are the kind of details that might have been included anyway. Like they want the report back to the legislature to include an inventory of the operators of farms that are producing compost, the estimated volume of food residuals imported onto farms, a status report on rulemaking, an accounting of any complaints. I mean, it's kind of stuff that would likely be included anyway, I would think, in a report back to the legislature. They do also say that the rules adopted under this section shall be designed to reduce odor, noise, etc., in a manner that is equal to or better than the rules for compost facilities in the A&R Solid Waste Management District rules. So it sounds like they want the rules around what we're doing to be equal to, I guess, or better than the rules for compost facilities at A&R. Again, I'm not so sure that that's particularly bad. if the rules have to be equal to or better than the rules for compost facilities at A&R.
Well, right now, the farms have to comply with those anyhow, I would expect.
I would think so.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't see anything that drastic. I don't know about you guys.
It doesn't seem like it, but then why would they bother?
Because they feel that they're, you know how your dog, when your dog goes to a new place, they have to make their mark.
The one thing I have a farm in a growth center, or just out, it might be just outside of it in one of my towns. And they're in permanent land conservation, but I'm assuming they do compost, would be the type that would want to potentially compost. So I don't know if that language with growth centers, I know it makes sense, but
Well,
Up
if
there.
they're already,
you wouldn't think
if
you'd
they're
have a
already
conserved
doing it,
farm on Route 7 in St. Albans, but you do.
yeah, if they're already doing it, it seems like they're exempt, but they can't initiate it. They can't
Yeah, I
start
don't
it.
know if they're already though. And I guess my point is it's only ever going to be a farm. So I don't want to limit what they can do there.
Is that
Yeah, I guess
the
it partly
one up
comes
by
down to a question.
Walmart?
Yeah, it's the one right up by Walmart.
Yeah, they already do composting. I think we took testimony from them
Yeah.
a couple of years ago.
Is that
the
Hudak?
guy-
Yeah, it's Hudax.
Yeah,
That's a
didn't
good
we
place.
hear from them a couple of years, 3 years ago?
I'm not sure.
But I wouldn't want to, if they're already doing it, fine, but I just cautious because I wouldn't want to stop them from being able to do it.
Right.
No.
I guess it
and-
kind of depends a little bit on how broad a growth center is.
Yeah. And I don't know if they're exactly in the designation, but they're only like a 1/10 of a mile up the road from where we have Walmart. So it's,
Right.
Well, the other thing is we heard in finance, the neighborhood, what's that language? The
Neighborhood development
neighborhood
area.
development areas. There's only 7, but this is part of what the governor's been promoting. Finance just approved it. I think it's now in your committee, Mr. Chair, where the downtown tax credits, that similar concept is going into the neighborhoods that are surrounding, so we can get duplexes fixed up and rental properties fixed up. So there's only 7 of these neighborhood designations now, but they're assuming a bunch more will come online. So it's one of those where I'm not sure we know the universe. Carolyn Gordon at Rural Vermont tells me they can live with this amendment, but I never know that how much they fully know about all these details of, neighborhood designations and everything.
Where is that listed, Chris, in the amendment?
Line 10,
It's the first
Line
instance
10.
of amendment. Yeah.
Oh,
line 10.
number 3.
Yeah. So and this is to Corey's point, the rule shall prohibit a farm from initiating the production of compost. So I guess if they're already initiated, but I mean, the problem, actually, if you had some land downtown, it'd be pretty great if people could bring their food scraps here.
Right.
Not to have a massive compost operation, but that's not what we're talking about. And so I don't know. They're all freaked out about Carl Hammer, and they don't want to see 20 new Carl Hammers. And they don't seem to understand that Carl Hammer's a totally different scale, completely untouched by this bill. And he's come through the current regulations. So it's just really weird.
Yeah, Ag didn't put Carl through. Act 250 put Carl through. So, I mean, they've got to go look in the mirror and say, golly, we did that to ourselves. I mean, we can't take ownership of that deal. But I wouldn't I mean, it would be good for like you guys in Chittenden County, if, you know, if you had a farm like out on,
Well, near
Yeah.
Wilson.
well, and you've got one down there near the Intervale someplace. You know, if you go over the new road that circles down through the Intervale and you go up onto Route 7, you go over there a little ways and take a right. And there's a street that ends down there at a farm.
Well, there's a bunch of farms down the Intervale. I don't think, you know, we've been there, done that, and there are water quality issues. You know, it's a floodplain, so we don't want to be talking about compost there. But I think, you know, they're going to be handled under the rules of, you know, impact on water quality. That we're not just saying, hey, put some compost anywhere you want, especially if you're on a farm. There's still all these
Hoops.
safeguards. So I mean, I'm sort of interested in moving this along and keeping the peace, but it's hard to just sort of take it on faith. But we have a timing question and then we have a policy question. I don't know the answer to either.
Well, if you guys, I mean, I don't see anything really urgent about changing any of their bull. And if you guys can stomach it and put up with it, certainly fine with me. And we'll let the House deal with it over there. And if they want to change the language to some degree, and we have a committee of conference, we'll be on that anyways. And so it's fine with me to let it go the way it is, and then we can deal with it and get it out of the way and forget about it until it comes back from the House.
I mean, I don't know enough about it. I'm likely maybe to vote against it just to send Senate Natural Resources and message that it wasn't unanimous, to be
Now,
honest with you.
Just because you're a Republican, don't hold grudges forever like elephants do, you know?
Not like what Chris said, I'm agreeing with a progressive here, is I just don't have the information on, you know, like the farm in my district. You know, granted, maybe they're already composting, but if they're not, it's an issue.
Why don't
Well,
we postpone action till Wednesday and just deal with this properly?
Because I mean,
Rather than letting it go. Anthony?
well, I was just going to do a supposition. I mean, suppose we know that they do composting and stuff at the Intervale in Burlington. That's existing. Suppose Rutland, somebody in Rutland wanted to do a community composting project and in Rutland, somewhere within the confines of the city or the town. Would they be allowed to do that starting next year or the year after, or are they going to be prohibited from starting it?
Not if they were considered a farm, no.
Well,
That's what the
yeah,
bill says.
not under this, right? It's the
So if we
linkage-
accept this amendment, then somebody couldn't start a composting operation in Rutland.
I'm assuming that's what it means. The other question I have further down, if they want to have an inventory of the operators and any complaints, are those already being tracked?
Yes, I would think
They
so.
are.
I think
Okay.
so. Remember, we had
Well,
the analysis because of the open records that yes, there were some complaints, but they were mostly on the same farm. And remember that a couple of years ago we
At
had
the airport or something?
yeah. So they're already DEC is already tracking it. But the thing is that I'll just say, like, I don't know what a growth center designated under 24 VSA is. I just don't know what that is. Some of those
Right.
are like kind of, aren't those some industrial parks? Are those growth centers on the edge of
don't know
town?
either.
Like if they're next to a farm, I just don't know what we're talking about.
well, we'll move to hold it up until Wednesday, and then we'll have Michael in, and it'll give Corey time to check to see how many compost centers they're gonna have in his district. And I think downtown Swanton could do one at the park, and maybe the one in St. Albans, the park there, they could use part of their park in town to do one. Uh, So
We've
we'll
used
just.
the bay
move
as a
the-
composting site for 100 years.
Yeah, we'll
Yeah,
just.
don't bring
move
that
the-
up during the floor.
No.
All right, so
We'll
we got a bit
move,
of time.
102 we'll hold until Wednesday.
Anthony, when we report it, am I doing everything but the compost section?
Yeah, I look at the bill as being in two sections. The composting goes up to section 8, I think. And then after that, you do everything else.
Okay.
And I don't know whether, I mean, one of us needs to do who the witnesses were. I would go first and then hand it to you. And then I could come back and do the witnesses and the vote, whatever. We can just play that by ear. That'll be easy enough.
Okay.
Good. Okay, any particular order you want to do the House bills that were presented to us? We had 88 certification of agricultural, the use value appraisal thing. In animal cruelty. Any particular order or just put them on,
I
put
don't
them
have,
on,
yeah.
however we can get the witnesses in to testify? Because
Sure.
some days we have trouble lining people up, but they can come a different day.
Yeah.
So I can work with Linda on that. And what about,
I agree with you
Hold-
about holding miscellaneous till the end. That
Okay.
makes sense.
yeah, we'll hold that one until toward the end. And what about the hemp and cannabis language that Kevin Ellis was in on?
Something weird about
We
that.
should have Michael or somebody or maybe Michelle look at that language.
Yep.
And once she reaches determination, I don't know if we should be doing that or some other, but if we put it together, we could send it to whoever, a different committee to review it. I don't know if you guys have got an opinion on that.
Oh, I don't mind us digging into it. Something didn't feel quite right. I don't know, just the gut thing, but I don't know. So I'm happy for us to really understand it better.
Have Michelle review it.
Yeah.
And come
I-
back and give
And I'm
us an
thinking it's a judiciary bill, not a ag bill, but I could be wrong.
See, a lot of these hemp people were just setting up shop to be ready to go to cannabis. And that's
Oh.
where I just wonder if they're shucksing us into that. I mean, I don't think there's anything in the law that says you can't have a hemp permit and a cannabis permit. And
You'd
we
want to
don't,
keep them miles apart.
I mean, I would like Michelle to come and say, here's the problem. And if she can't do that, we should approach it cautiously, I think, but.
Yeah, Linda, could you send that material off to Michelle and ask her to review it for the committee and maybe next week, if she has time, we could have her in to give us a little update on that.
That same information that I sent to Mr. O'Grady, to Michael,
Uh,
the 4 documents that you sent forwarded to Michael, is that what you're talking about?
yeah, from Lynn Blackman. That we got from Kevin and the lawyer that was with him.
Yeah.
Pietro, yeah.
Yeah.
And
Linda, did you already send that to O'Grady?
Yes. Should that have gone to Michelle?
I think you should send it to both of them because it's where their jurisdictions intersect that we're
Yeah,
having a question.
that's true.
Okay, I'll let them know.
So, Mr. Chair, the other bill, that raw milk bill, I think we're gonna need a long discussion about that. I again heard from folks that called into question some of the testimony that we got from the House members in terms of what they heard from the Health Department and the Agency of Agriculture. In fact, I think we got an email. Go ahead, Corey.
I was gonna say, I'm fine leaving that one on the wall. I know it's courtesy to take up the other body's bills, but I have no interest in passing a raw milk bill. And I don't think there's anything that can be done to get my support on it.
Well, your co-op is supporting it wholeheartedly, I think.
Don't have to listen to them all the time, Bobby.
No, no,
I
that,
know they don't support it, but
no, we'll spend some time on that because I know UBM, people up there are interested. There's a lot of controversy with raw milk and the problems that can come from it when you aren't used to drinking. You know, I'd hate to have somebody go to a farmer's market, buy a gallon or two of it or a quart or two and go home and give it to their children and get deathly ill. No, we're going to spend some quality time on that bill.
Thank you.
So
Michael O'Grady has joined us.
Oh, Michael's with us?
Yeah.
Well, that's pretty good. And I don't, let's see, where is Michael? Morning, Michael.
Good morning. How's
Good to
everyone?
have you with us. We can run through, we were gonna see if you could run through that amendment that Natural Resources did to the composting bill, Michael, and we had a couple of questions. We talked about it before you came, and a couple of questions about what is a growth center and what's involved in that in a downtown center. I guess we understand the downtown center. It was, but anyways, why don't you run through that? We all have copies of it, and
Okay, so I won't
that
post, I won't screen share it.
can you all have it on your own? Yeah.
Okay. All right, so as you know, in S102, as it came out of your committee, you gave the Agency of Agriculture authority to establish a residuals management program. And as part of that program, you gave them rulemaking authority. And so what the first instance of amendment does is it changes or adds to what the agency needs to address in its rulemaking. First, let me note that before the agency adopts its rules, it has to follow the accepted composting practice rules and A&R solid waste rules. And those rules already prohibit a compost facility from locating in a designated downtown. Okay, so this provision that says the rule shall prohibit a farm from initiating production of compost within a downtown, village center, or new town center or neighborhood development area, that's basically existing law, right? And so that's just making sure that the new Agency of Ag rules bring forward this prohibition for downtowns in its rules. What is different is the growth center provision, right?
Yeah,
Growth centers can be much bigger than a designated downtown. There are 6 growth centers designated in the state. The example that people give, because it does involve some farmland, is the St. Albans Growth Center, because it extends, I'm not going to get my directions right. I think it extends south and west, south and east. right?
Two growth
Southeast,
centers.
southeast, I would presume.
Yeah.
So we actually have
West,
two
you're
growth
gonna end
centers.
up in the lake.
Yeah, we have two, one on each interstate exit, basically.
Right, and so there's probably some ag land or at least ag soils there. And so this would prohibit a new compost production facility farm, really, at that in that area. And the rationale was that that's an area that the locality has chosen for dense development, and it's not an appropriate site for a farm producing compost.
What about if Parents Composting Company wanted to establish a composting facility within that growth area, would that be allowed?
If who parents what?
If I decide to start a composting company in my growth center,
As an individual, but not as a farmer.
If they were operating under ANR's rules, they potentially could locate in the growth center.
So it's discriminating against if a person is a farmer, owns 4 acres and grosses X number of dollars of income, and it's a farm, they wouldn't be able to, but if they were not a farm, they would just go through Act 250 and go for it.
They may not even need to go through Act 250, because if I don't think St. Albans is a 1 acre town. I think they're a 10 acre town. And so they would have to have a commercial activity of 10 acres or more that qualifies as development. And then they would just need the A&R permit.
Chris brought up earlier in our discussion, Chris Pearson brought it up that it would be handier for village or city people not to have to drive way off to dispose of their own compost, and that it would be handy if maybe if there was one close to town. And so, but I don't know if that's going to be a problem. What about if you added a word in there to limit it to what is already designated or what is designated at this point in time? I don't know. It's bad when you limit one group of people from doing something, but you allow other groups of people to do the same thing.
Well, in defense of Senate Natural, this is in the agencies of Ag's rulemaking authority, right? This is what they have authority over underneath this program. That's their authority. They can't regulate the solid waste facility because that's ANR's authority. So in defense of the committee, they're operating within the agency's jurisdiction.
Yeah.
In other words, so these limitations that we're contemplating here is just under the ag universe. People could still go through the ANR structure. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
What about if there is an existing farm with, that's what bothers me is I don't understand how much is getting looped up in the downtown village center, new town center, neighborhood development area, or growth center, especially growth center. But some of those must have a current farm in them, right? Or are they pretty limited? Do you have any sense of that?
I missed Chris Cochran from ACCD was supposed to present some testimony to Senate Natural about that on Wednesday, I believe. And I missed that testimony. He was going to try to see how many farms were in growth centers, and I didn't see that. I can try to find it.
So any of you guys have a problem with that language the way it is? Okay to let it go, or you want to get more testimony on it?
I guess, if it's already the way things are, why do we need to put it in here?
Well, remember, it's the way things are for A&R,
Right,
right?
okay.
And now this is going to be Agency of Ag. And so now it's about making that standard transfer over.
So wait a minute, are you saying that A&R already has these prohibitions?
For designated downtowns, designated villages, etc., but not for the growth center.
But not for the growth center, but we are gonna have it on farmland in growth centers that they can't start them. So we're more restrictive in ag than what they are at A&R. And that's the part I'm questioning, is we're using two groups of business people, different, totally different. One can do it and the other one can't do it. And if you already have a farm in operation there, I would think that's where you would, with odors and animals and everything, that's where you would want a compost center. You wouldn't want parent composting company to move into an open area in a growth center and starting up a composting facility. I would think you'd want to keep it all in a place that's already producing odors and manure and, all the byproducts that go into composting. So it could have, the way they put the bill, it could have a greater effect on a growth center, the way they're putting it, than I think the way we had it.
So here's the A&R prohibition. It says small compost facilities are prohibited from locating within a designated downtown or village center unless the municipality has expressly allowed composting in that area. Because there are some municipalities that have agricultural areas within their designated downtowns.
And they allow that now, but a new one can't get
Right.
started. Well, okay, so this would be the same then. We ought to have it the same way in our bill as they have it, right?
Well, that's not what Senate Natural wanted, but if that's what you want, I can definitely draft that for you.
So,
Well,
Michael,
if we're gonna play the game, we all gotta play under the same rules, I should hope. You don't want one team playing under one set of rules and the other team playing under a different set of rules. That's bull. I don't know if they talked about that or not, but.
Well, they definitely knew that growth centers was a new prohibition. They did know that.
Michael,
if we added that prepositional clause starting with unless that municipality to this bill, would it even things up, so to speak?
I think that would go a long way to evening things up. Yep.
But that's not what Senate Natural, in essence, wanted. Because if it was, they would have added it.
Or did they talk?
They talked a lot about nuisances and creating nuisances in downtowns and trying to avoid that. They didn't talk a lot about what the municipality would want.
So what do you want to do? Anything or?
I'd rather give the municipality more say, considering I represent a municipality that probably has to deal with this, or could potentially.
Well, I mean, what do you guys think about one agency doing it under one set of rules and a sister agency doing it under a different set of rules? Shouldn't they both be playing by the same
I
rules?
thought that was the whole point of the bill, was to try to
Yeah,
bring them together under the same set of rules.
yep, I agree.
Michael,
Chris?
I didn't see Cochran's as a witness over on Senate Natural, so I'm still struggling to understand. Of all the designations, this growth center one, it means the least to me. Do we have 2 of them or 35 of them? Do you have any sense?
6.
Are they the big towns typically or what?
Yes, but not, I mean, it depends on what you consider a big town.
Well, 5,000 or more people?
Well, hold on a second. There's an annual report, St. Albans, hold on a second. Bennington, Colchester, Hartford, Montpelier, St. Albans, and Williston.
St. Albans is the smallest one, but yeah, fits your definition of 5,000 or more.
All right. So if we're really just talking about 5 communities.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But what about the new ones that are
Exactly.
where we expanding out? What about those coming along?
Like, are we at 6 and we're never going to have more than 6? The answer to that's probably no. There's always going to be an addition to that list. And that puts the farmer kind of squarely in the bullseye to me, because I agree with you, Mr. Chair. We're not operating under the same rules on both sides of this.
What about after the or if we put present growth centers designated under 24 VSA?
Well, I think it's easier for us to argue the parallel. So what is it currently under the A&R zone? There's some, unless a municipality, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah,
Right.
designated downtowns and designated village centers unless a municipality expressly authorizes.
Why don't we put that in then?
And that's the way it is under A&R.
Yeah.
So that's the current designated downtown or village center unless a municipality has expressly allowed composting in that area.
So we ought to offer an amendment to the amendment then. I think that would make it equal. It'd be fair for whatever, both, and I think it'd make it would make the bill better. There's two rules for 2 different agencies working for the same people is crazy.
Plus,
And
you
when
don't
you talk-
want to. Sorry,
I'm
go
sorry.
ahead.
Well, I just want to be clear on this. When we talk about the 2 different set of rules, we mean that under A&R, the growth center could do it if the municipality wanted, allowed it. But under the ag rule that they're proposing, even if they don't allow the community to make that decision. I just want to be clear that that's what we're talking about when we say 2 different rules.
Yeah.
Almost.
Okay.
Because under A&R, they don't look to see if you're in a growth center. They look to see if you're in a designated downtown or village. Right. So, and then they look to see if you're in a designated downtown or village, if the municipality has expressly approved it.
Right.
For hold on a second. For what is proposed in Senate Natural's amendment, they would just look to see if you're in one of the designated areas. And if you're proposing to look in a designated area, you're prohibited.
So they're adding
Reg-
growth centers as a new designated area.
Right. And the designated neighborhood areas, et cetera, which are basically the same as the villages and the downtowns. It's a little bit broader, but it's basically the same concept. But growth center is the one that can, as Senator Parent referenced, it can be way outside your traditional downtown. And so that's expansive. And then they don't have the criteria or the exception that it's allowed if the municipality has expressly allowed it. So
So the committee's in pretty much agreement to have Michael just do that little change and equal stuff out.
So I need to be clear. What do you want to equal out? Do you want it to just say in a designated downtown or designated village unless the municipality is expressly authorized? Or do you want to say leave their language and then just add the unless clause?
For the whole suite of them, I think, right?
Yeah, I
Right.
thought we were talking about the second thing you said, to leave their language, but then add the clause about unless the local community says it's
Okay.
okay.
Okay. That's I just need to clarify.
That would be the simplest way to do it.
Mhm.
And that's the closest parallel to what exists under A&R today, right?
Yeah, the only
It's-
difference is we'd be adding growth centers.
Right.
So they get to have something. So,
Yeah.
Mr. Chair, does this now, to me, it seems like we would take this back to them and say, if you do this in your amendment, we'll support it. But
Well,
you're better at that stuff than I am. So what do you recommend?
it would be better if they added it to their, when they're reporting it, they could just add that language, and Anthony or you could get up and say that, well, we agree with Senate Natural's amendment. It'd be much simpler, cleaner, faster, and more congenial to both.
Well, congenial is us. So would we ask, is it appropriate to ask Michael to bring that message back to them and see, or do you want one of us to do that, Michael, or what?
I don't have a problem doing it.
And you, I mean, we're all freaking busy in our respective committees, and if you aren't there at the right time and then you hold the other committee up, if you could do that, and unless they need one of us in there, it would be more efficient, Michael.
Sure. I don't have a problem doing that.
And
Basically what I'll do is I'll listen to what you want for changes, and then I'll basically redline, I'll take their version and show in red text what you want.
Yep.
And then send that to them and say, this is what you're proposing. And you are saying that if they make those changes, you will support the amendment.
yep,
This is what we can support. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's a parallel, but it also gives them the addition of applying the parallel framework to the designated growth centers in addition to what else was already being done.
Right.
More than fair.
yep. So what about going on to the next?
Sure. So also in the rules that the Agency of Ag would adopt, the Senate Natural wanted those rules to be comparable to A&R's rules for reducing odor, noise, vectors, and other nuisance conditions and protection of public health and the environment. But they realized that some of the small compost facilities had raised issues with some of the techniques or requirements that A&R had in its rules. So they wanted to give the Agency of Ag some flexibility, because originally they were going to say that this language had to be the Agency of Ag's public health and vector provisions had to be as stringent as ANR's rules. And then they're like, oh, that's too much. So what they said is that the rules have to be designed to reduce odor, noise vectors, and other nuisance conditions on farms, and to protect the public health and the environment in a manner that is equal to or better than the rules for compost facilities in ANR's solid waste management rules. So there's some wiggle room there, but the intent is that they be generally as protective as ANR's rules.
I don't think we have a problem with that. We don't want hog pens coming out of these areas where we allow composting.
So my
Is
only
that
issue,
agreeable with everybody?
the word better there is kind of,
Yeah,
I guess it presupposes something that I think I know what they mean, but not everybody might.
Well, if the Agency of Ag can figure out a better way to deal with rats, let them deal with
Okay.
rats. You
All
know,
right.
you know what I mean? And
oh, so
so,
that,
right.
Yeah, I'm okay with this.
So the second instance of amendment, it strikes the report that you had. You had a report back just on the status of the rulemaking next January. They want a more thorough, a more detailed report, and to have that report annually for 5 years. And so that report would include an inventory of the farms that are producing compost under the new definition of farming 22H, a status report on the rulemaking and any subsequent amendment to the rules, an accounting of any complaints or enforcement actions brought against farms producing compost under 22H, and any additional information the secretary determines is relevant to administration of the 22H compost production.
well, that should be able to be done right in-house at the agency, and we would want to get a status report anyways, I would presume. Any problems from committee members with that? No? And,
Should I move on?
yeah,
So the third instance of amendment relates to timing of rulemaking. Senator Bray specifically likes to have start dates and end dates for rulemaking. So this would require the agency to initiate their rulemaking on or before January 1, 2022, and to file the final proposal of a rule on or before January 1, 2023. So he's basically setting up a year time frame for adoption of the rule.
3, 6. That's a long time. They could do it sooner though, right?
Right, it's on or before.
Yeah, yeah. Any problems from anybody? Should we
Michael-
try to get that started sooner? Or they
No,
can
because
start sooner, right?
They can, and we dealt with the fact that they have to honor ANR's rules while they're doing it. So presumably they're motivated to get out from
Yeah.
under other people's rules.
Yeah.
Did the agency comment on this, to your knowledge, Michael?
Not to my knowledge. I don't think this is a significant burden for them. You know, rulemaking is 5 to 8 months, and that's more generous than
Well,
that.
yeah, it's a year and a half, 2 years almost.
And in
Um,
both cases, Bobby, it says honor before. So if they wanted to start before that, they could.
They could,
If they want to end sooner than that, they could.
yeah. No, that's fine. I mean, it's just words put in a bill for no reason.
Senator Bray likes to have accountability in the timing
Oh.
of rulemaking, and so it's pretty much in any bill where he's got a rule. There's
Yeah.
this. So
Yeah, No, that's fine. Chris, do you have any
Well,
question?
I just noticed the time, the effective date is July 1, and can you help me be sure that the letter that our chicken friends are operating under, didn't that go to May?
So the effective date for sections 1 through 8A, which is where the farming provision, that's passage.
Oh, okay, there it is. Sorry. Yep, it's written right in front of me. Okay, thank you.
In the fourth,
The fourth instance of amendment is just, I did tweak the effective dates to make some of the new rulemaking implementation part of the effective date. So that 8A, I could have
Yeah.
just changed one number, but it's a little bit more transparent this way.
yep,
So we're just making that little, what we consider a minor tweak to the growth center.
Yep.
Okay.
yeah, I think that, we would be good to go if they could add our suggestion up higher there, up in the first part, we'd be good to go.
Okay, so I will, as you
Go ahead.
requested, that I will make that change and send it to them as your proposal and indicate that if they could make it, you would support the amendment.
Yeah, I think that's good.
We'll still
Any
probably
other-
have to ask to pass over it because they won't be meeting. The floor's at 11 today, and there'd be no way for them to see this today, right?
I am not certain, but I believe the bill is going to be sent to appropriations.
I thought it went there yesterday, but
Well, I checked the status sheet this morning and it had not been sent to appropriations, according to the status sheet.
did we have the expenditure of money in there?
You have the deposit of the new registration fees in the special
Oh.
fund, right?
Yeah.
And so, Secretary Bloomer, generally, when there's new revenue into a fund, he sends the revenue portion to finance and then the expenditure of that to appropriation.
Well, it is up for action. We pushed it out of finance, I don't know, it must have been 2 days ago.
Right, but it was only delivered according to the status sheet yesterday. It may have actually only been delivered, right. On the calendar, it says it was delivered today, but that would mean it meant it was delivered yesterday.
But it was, must have been on notice yesterday if it's up for action.
Probably, yeah.
Anyway, well, we better understand. So should we talk to Bloomer or just assume that?
I would consult with the secretary. He doesn't necessarily like when Ledge Council is like, are you gonna send this there? The clerk doesn't mind, but John gets a little wrinkled about
But
that.
if we were gonna pass over it anyway, it doesn't matter.
Well, it does because we got to get it out of approps.
If
to
it's
do
in
that.
approps, it's gotta get out today.
Oh,
How do we get hold of Bloomer?
I'll call. Why don't I hop off right now, call him, and just pin this one down? Does that make
And
sense?
Chris-
Yeah, okay,
Chris-
then we'll know right off. And tell
it-
him who's gonna be the reporters, Chris.
I see
Okay,
that McDonald thinks he's reporting.
Well, he
Well,
is. For,
he
he is for
isn't
natural.
reporting our bill. He's reporting this amendment.
And for finance.
Okay, because the bill went to the floor and got designated, it's got referred to their committee. Isn't
Oh,
Senate
we
Natural
don't-
technically the reporter? You might
We
want to
don't-
talk to
we-
Bloomer about that too.
We've got to report what we did with the bill. We have never reported that. You know, the Ag Committee hasn't reported on
Oh, I see.
102.
But Michael's saying it's a committee bill that got referred to natural. So I see what you're saying, Michael. You're saying like if my bill that I
Your bill.
introduced
Right.
was pushed to judiciary, I don't get to report on it. Okay, I'll ask him that.
Hey,
I promise you well, oh my God, if McDonald is taking.
Well,
lead-
I'm not gonna say anything.
Well, I mean, it would be really entertaining. I mean, sometimes his reports are very disarming.
Yeah,
Paulina,
he
what,
did so good on the Rygate bill.
Paulina, you wanted to ask me something?
I was just gonna say that if it goes to appropriations, that would be your section to go to appropriations with.
That's
Yeah.
true.
Yeah.
Jane hasn't seemed to warm up when I get in there lately, so I don't know.
I was there yesterday and it went fine
See,
on something else, on corporate contributions.
Yeah, I've
Public
got
fin-
a,
public
Study.
financing study.
did we amend that? Did we amend that bill, Anthony?
The one about the corporate funding?
Yeah,
No, you endorsed it. You supported it. You were basically looking at the fact that there's a study in it, study of public financing of elections, and you all supported it except for Alice Nitka.
yeah, I think she moved to do it in, so. And then they appointed me to report on it.
Right. So you're just reporting on the study, there's a study of public financing of campaigns and how it's going in
Right.
other states. And there's like two legislators that'll get paid to do the per diems.
Yeah, it's not gonna have, yeah, and the money comes out of some
Right.
fund they already have or something. I gotta, yeah. Okay, so any other questions is that up today, Anthony?
No, I think it's up Tuesday.
Yeah. Any other questions for Michael? No?
Nope.
Well, it might.
Hey, actually, I have a very quick one, Michael. In 10 words or less, what is the growth center?
A big plot of open land.
I know, that's what I imagine. I don't know whether there's anything more technical about it than that.
We
Hold
have
on a sec.
ours next to interstate exits. So it's where we get special, I think, I don't know the exact definition, but I think the town gets special permitting designation there.
Right. Oh shoot. It's an area within a downtown or village center that shall support Vermont's traditional land use pattern of compact centered separated by rural lands. Really what it is it's a benefit area. You can
Right.
start a TIF in a growth center.
Right.
You get different potential regulatory benefits. It's really it's a benefit area to incent development in that region, that
Okay.
designated area.
Thank you.
Anything else for Michael? If not, thanks a lot, Michael, for coming so soon to our meeting. It
You're welcome.
certainly helped us out. So hopefully next week we'll have you in sometime. We're gonna start working on those house bills and moving forward with that.
Sure. There, two of them are probably up for action right now.
Okay,
Probably
well, we'll let you
late to the
know.
floor.
Yeah, okay, thanks
Okay.
again.
All right.
Thanks,
bye.
Michael.
What do you think? We should chat a little bit about the discussion that we had presented to us yesterday in regards to that Norwich property, the farm, and I don't, have you guys thought much about that and is, and if it's something that you think we should weigh in on or
I wonder what I feel as if it's an important thing, but I'm not sure what we can do about it. I mean, if there's something we can do about it, I'd say, sure, let's try to do, but I mean, we're not gonna buy it, you know what I mean? I just don't know how we interject ourselves into that kind of like deal. I mean, other than just expressing our opinion.
Yeah,
Well,
I wondered that too.
who, what did we do last week in regards to the state colleges? Didn't we elect 2 or 3 reps?
Oh, those are UVM.
Yeah, that was trustees at UVM.
Oh, those are all up at UVM.
Yep.
But we do have a bunch.
Yeah, we have
that,
trustees on the state college board too somewhere. Yeah.
And Lynn Dickerson's chair of the board, who's a rep. And so we have that avenue that we could write a letter, some type of a letter to the board.
Yeah.
And before another 2 months goes by, we're going to be probably appropriating $50-odd million to the state colleges. So we've got a little bit of leverage there. And I think the issue is whether we think as a committee, whether we think we should try to keep that as an active agricultural facility or allow the state colleges to sell it to the for the money for the highest and best use and have it turned into whatever. I can't imagine what anybody would get, where they would get $1.1 million return on what they're projecting to sell it for that little bit of land,
Yeah.
unless they hit oil.
Right.
And
I agree. I think if we were going to take a position, I would want our position to be that it should be kept in agriculture. But as you're saying, that's difficult to imagine doing with that small amount of land at that price. And also
Well-
Pat Moulton was pretty clear that she didn't want it. She was saying, we've got a farm here in Randolph, we've got cows here in Randolph. Why would we want to have a place in Norwich? I mean, I'm not saying that she's right or wrong, but she's wrong in the sense that she shouldn't want it to go out of agriculture. But it just seems like, she she wasn't interested in having it. Excuse me.
well, they went broke in 1 year there, so I can understand their position. Chris?
I don't pretend to know a lot about it, but I worry that it's a money drain. So it's not just a question of sort of this 1 year, here's $1 million, now you don't have to sell it. I think there's an ongoing concern, and it sounds like the local community is trying to step up and figure it out. I will just add that during testimony yesterday, Ellen Kaler must have been watching because she was texting me. I'm just trying to find it. And she basically said that there are some places where you might be able to locate a creamery in Norwich that would be less expensive, smaller footprint. And, so this notion that if we want that kind of business in the community, it's got to be there. She was at least, I don't have a clue, but that was her her assertion that you could do it. So I don't know. I don't pretend to know a lot about it. I would confess to being uncomfortable with us kind of butting in, but you guys have a lot more of the history than I do. That's for sure.
Well, I guess it goes to show what our dairy farmers are going through on their each individual farms. And, that's probably why 50 of them or 40 of them went out of business this last year is because of the price of milk. And it's very hard to make money on a farm. And what what bothers me about just letting it go is that they were given this place. It would be like if I gave my son the family farm, free and clear and no restrictions on it. That the first thing he does is sells off the 300 and some acres of it. And then he takes that money and blows it on the rest of it. And a year later, he goes broke. I mean, I would say that there's some serious problems with, if that happened with me at home, I would say shame on me for not having some restrictions on that and allowing that to happen. But anyways, Brian?
Yeah, thanks, Bobby. So this didn't come on our radar until, what, a couple days ago from, I guess it was a Digger article that was read. I'm agreeing with Senator Polina. I think we should take a position because to me, just the dollars and the cents of it don't make any sense. If they let it go for whatever they can get for it, and let's say it's 900 grand or maybe $1 million, and somebody comes in and develops it and puts up 6 or 7 houses on those 6 acres, we've given away that land now. We'll never get it back. And the money that's realized from it, when you think about the millions and millions and millions of dollars we're talking about with the Vermont State College system, isn't going to make much of a difference to the bottom line. So I really think we should at least take a position that we feel it should stay in agriculture somehow. And I don't know beyond that what we can do. I don't know. I mean, we could talk to Lynn Dickinson, I guess, but from what Pat Moulton said yesterday, it's theirs, free and clear. It doesn't have anything to do in terms of being an additional asset for the VSC. It's the Vermont Technical Campus College that owns that land and the building. So it doesn't. The money's going to go to them regardless. But to me, I think, and your phrase is very good, Mr. Chair, the best use, I think we ought to make sure that we feel the best use of that is to remain in agriculture. I mean, if we were talking about $1 billion and it really had a substantial impact to the college, that'd be one thing, but we're not talking about that kind of money.
Well, and did that Omer guy, didn't he tell us that they raised or could raise 650,000 or something like that?
Something, I thought he said 610, but whatever, it was somewhere around 600, yeah.
But, you know, I could see the college not wanting to let it go for, you know, 300,000 or 400,000 if it's been truly appraised at 1.1 million. But I think that appraisal is for the highest and best use of that land.
Yeah.
It wasn't appraised as an agricultural facility. And I would hope that if they could get that number up to 750, and walk away with the property and keep it in ag, you know, I think VTC ought to be proud that they sold it at a fair price and proud that they owned it. It was given to them and they walked away with that much money, but that creamery should stay with that farm and let that Chris guy and his the other lady that works with him keep that operation going. And the what they call it, Norwich Citizens Group would be the owners and keep that place going.
So I think 2 thoughts. One is you got to be careful about using the phrase highest and best use, because under state of Vermont property tax system, highest and best use means developing it into a subdevelopment or commercial development. Just keep that in mind. Highest and best use means not being a farm, because that's not, they mean highest best use means the biggest return on their dollar. We would also
Well-
have to then, if we were doing what you just said, Bobby, we'd have to maybe take the position that the college should give the citizens a certain amount of time to try to raise the money. You know,
Yeah,
because I could see them saying, well, maybe it's gonna take us a year to raise the money or whatever, 6 months more to raise the money. And the college might say, well, we can't wait that long, although I don't see why they couldn't.
yeah. I mean, if you guys, none of you sit in institutions, do you? Is-
No, Corey,
Corey's
Wh-
in there. Where is
Corey's
he?
in there.
When we really need Corey, where is he?
He's coming. He's coming. He's here twice now.
Well,
he's spreading himself too thin.
I'd like to know, I was gonna ask him this, how many times that we see the state go and we as a state go and buy something for $3 million, renovate it and keep it heated and the lights on and do this and do that, and end up 2 years later, 3 years later, selling it for 50 cents on the dollar. I mean,
So
It-
the,
constant.
don't. I mean, I must confess to thinking that if we say it should stay in ag, either they're going to say thanks for your opinion and delete our email, or they're going to say, well, fine, you know, we're very open to it staying in ag. It will cost you $1.1 million or whatever. Neither of those are terribly productive to my mind. Help me understand. I mean, this is where I run into this all the time. People want us to demand things from UVM. And I'm like, yeah, but we don't give them very much money now. And so they say, well, it's really sweet of you to ask for this and give us the money and we'll be glad to do it. And that's not unreasonable. So why don't you think we'll be running into that if we are expressing our desire to see this land stay in ag?
Well, your children aren't that old, right?
They're not
How
that-
old are your children?
10 and 8. Well,
Yeah, well, you've got a lot of serious learning coming in your direction. Eric, anyways, I had one child and of course, you know, you name it, he could have it. I mean, one and that was it. Well, he'd come home and he'd say, Dad, you know, so-and-so's got a brand new 24-inch 10-speed bicycle. And, you know, I could really use one of those, you know, and so yeah, I could run out and got it. I could have run out and got him one. So, well, fine, you earn half the money, I'll put half in and we'll have a heck of a deal going. Well, come on, Dad, can't I work afterwards and pay you? And no, you go get your half, I'll take my half. And so with these guys, you say to them, well, tough luck, you got this for free. You're getting your whatever money back. And we're keeping it in ag because it was ag. It was given to you as you determined that it should stay in ag because you did all this good stuff. And maybe if you can agree with us, we won't give you quite as much money. Not that we're gonna give them anything extra for doing the right thing, but we just don't give them quite as much as we were gonna give them to keep the operation going. So you don't penalize them for doing the right thing, but you don't reward them for doing the wrong thing.
all right. I mean,
I know.
I would feel very strongly if this was about land that was contiguous to campus, that was, you know,
Oh,
a dramatic departure from their mission, any of that. I would feel very strongly about it. To me, this just feels a little tortured, but I'll follow your lead.
well, what do you think's coming next?
Well, I think
If you let-
they you know, I'm guessing they took a gift. It was a gift. It satisfied the owner. It satisfied the community who didn't have better solutions. And it sounds like it's not like our state colleges are all in the flush right now, right? They're coming out of a pretty tough time, and we're going to help them a lot out of there. And if I'm looking at, you could understand them looking at their operation, and somebody from the outside said, what the hell is this thing that's 30 miles away? You know, I don't know. It just, I feel like the local community is coming in to try and preserve it. Maybe we give them a little grant. I mean, we are doing that kind of stuff all over the place. Maybe the municipality buys in. I mean, there's a lot of options here, short of us kind of trying to pressure the owner into owning something they don't want to own and is going to be a drag on their finances that we're not likely to cover.
Oh, I think they're doing the right thing by liquidating it. I'm just questioning if they should liquidate it to the highest and best bidder, or if they should liquidate it for a little bit less and keep it in ag. No, they should liquidate that for sure. It's too far from their institution to, no, I think Pat is, 100% right on that. But I'm questioning who should be the lucky owners, whether it should be something to do with ag. And if you've got this community group that's very interested in it and want to do this, we should, and keep it in ag, we should allow that and support that happening. So, what do you think? Where do you want to go with it? I mean, no.
Should we maybe take some testimony from someone on the board of trustees of the state colleges, or is that meddling too much?
I don't know. I would rather, I wish we have had more time for that Omer guy to get some of his people in and to see how serious they are about raising the money, making sure that they're spot on, because that they're, how much time do they need? How much do they think could they come up with the bulk of the money, or they stretch their limit to the end at 610? And
I don't know what to do.
Is he gonna want to disclose that if he's obviously gonna try to buy the land for the best price he can buy it for? And if he's public being like, yeah, I can probably raise 8, and then the college then knows, well, so that, I mean, on select boards they go into executive session on a conversation like that, so they don't have to be at a disadvantage in a negotiation. Because like they said, they go, every dollar they have to spend acquiring the land they can't put into the property.
well, you guys don't practice that in institutions.
No.
You guys figure out how much you want to spend, and then you tell everybody in the world how much that is, and ask them to bid on it.
Yeah, it's like the old joke. Every car mechanic out there is going to tell you your car repair is $1,400 for the next few weeks, because they all know you have it in your bank account.
How many building, how long have you been in there? Just this year?
Yeah.
Well, you've got a lot of learning coming. Just keep track of how many buildings we spent $2 million on, sold them for $1. Corey, Chris.
Um, I have an update about my chat with Bloomer, and I want to ask you about the meals bill. So I just don't want us to spend too much time.
No. Go, we're done with this. We'll go ahead with your update because we're gonna have to get rolling here.
So Bloomer said when we're creating a new fund, this is reference to the fee, that they've sent it to approps, but when we're just adding capacity to an existing fund, it doesn't have to go to approps. So that's why it didn't get referred. He said that I told him that it's actually under Polina's name. And he said, technically it is as Brian was saying, I think it was Brian, that a committee bill gets
Maybe.
referred and it would be a natural resources bill, but their tradition, especially in Zoom, has been that they'll turn to the committee, our committee, for an explanation, and then in this case, McDonald will respond. So so that seems straightforward. I didn't tell him that we were delaying or anything, but he'll update the name, and that's why it's not got to go to approach. So we should be safe there.
So we'll still move to hold it up until next Wednesday, right? So we can give Chris enough time in natural and get back to us on Tuesday.
I think
Yeah.
that makes sense.
But
Yeah.
we'll still present the bill as if it was our bill. Like when you and I will present the bill, we'll do the section by section as much as we want, that kind of stuff.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
And then I noticed, I was informed that Propes today has a bunch of bills on the calendar. Not S100 is not there. And I had understood yesterday that you were delaying thoughts on it until today. And so just an update.
We talked about it at length and a lot of support in there for it. But Jane wants to work that into the 22 budget bill. And so it will, when we get to working on the budget bill, we'll work through the details and the money, because long-term, we've got to work on the total amount of cost.
Yeah.
And also the schools are all getting millions of dollars from the, not ERA funds, but they're the EER funds.
Recovery, yeah.
Each individual school. And we need to see if they can use some of that money if they need be to get this all started. But so we agreed yesterday to hold it up, and it would be part of a big bill down the road.
So that makes sense in terms of the end point, but in the meantime, don't we need our House Ed committee and our House Ag committee to dig in? I mean, that sometimes big new policy changes that show up in the budget can get you in trouble. So what's the plan there? Do we just telegraph to them, or is it possible to advance the bill?
You mean on the House side? On the House
Yeah.
side, Chris?
Yeah.
I think Jane will talk with Mary and our Brian and Ed would talk to his counterpart, and we would talk to Carolyn on
Okay.
the other side.
They Carolyn already had me in to give them a preview earlier this week. Although Carolyn wasn't there, Rodney ran the committee. All right. Well, it would be a shame to have this come across as a setback. So, I do think we want House Ed to really dig in, because we didn't, after all, Senate Ed did not have too much time.
And no, you know, Richie Sears, you know, Alice didn't say, but, you know, Phil, I mean, we're in good shape with the numbers that will support it. But Jane had concerns about, you know, the 25 to 30 or 40 million overall, and thinks that we need to spend more time in regards to that large of an expenditure to get a better handle on it.
I
But
just gotta step
support-
away and lose some coffee. I'll be right back.
No, I think we're in pretty good shape.
Okay.
So we'll take a short break because we got to be rolling in at 9:45 or 10 of.
Yep.
Anything else, guys? If not,
See you on the floor.
you want me to hold the bill up until Wednesday?
Sure.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, we're good. So have a good weekend. We'll see you on the floor in a